Enjoy.
Thank you. Awesome. Cheers. All right, so, wow. I have a friend, he goes by the name of Grotz. He says that words are for suckers, animations are hard, and memes are easy. And then I just saw, Smirker actually do some kung fu there with the bash slides. So they're too cool, so I have no slides. No, I'm just kidding. Actually, I'm shooting in here, doing another script, and also converting that into Python, and you actually have a module now that you can do bash or the slides with Python. Big disclaimer, of course, like we always have to do. This presentation is based only on my opinion, only me, acting individual alone, and only by myself. I'm wrong, I'm an idiot, I'm clueless, I'm uneducated, and I'm just a trained pigeon. So it doesn't go over any of the opinions of my employer, my friends, my mom, my dad, anybody else. So the insider threat, as a matter of fact, I should not be the one speaking about this because I have no clue about this thing. I think that the industry as a whole has no clue about the insider threat. If not, we will not have it right now. But I want to actually learn from you instead of you learning from me that much. But I'll start with some historical background here, right? So there has been many studies regarding the insider threat. CERT actually has a really good program. How many of you are familiar with the program from CERT for insider threat? So a couple of you. I invite you to actually go there. They're probably one of the best, at least from their case studies. And I'm actually going to go over some of their case studies here. But anyway, the insider threat is actually, as you know, I think that whenever, and I have a slide in here, but whenever we talk about the insider threat, of course, the first thing is Snowden, right? So I want to table that one for now. As a matter of fact, if I say Snowden or you say Snowden, we have to actually drink. So drink. But according to Forrester, from the study that they actually did last year, the top source of most of the breaches were insiders. And the study actually indicated, they actually went and did a study with North American companies and also European companies that they picked, and they're Fortune 500 equivalent in Europe. And they indicated that only 42% of them have received somewhat of a training, not only in the security policies of the actual insider threat, so that's not news to anybody. Only 57% actually say that they even know if there are actually policies in place. Of course, everybody behind are getting, owned right now, if you can call it that way. This is not a technical problem, and I go into the details of that. But many companies, organizations, the government, friends, and everybody nowadays are a victim of insider threat. And one of the things that is typical about this is that you can actually do all the static analysis in the world. You can do black box testing on computers. You can do, authenticated scans. You can actually, reverse engineer a whole bunch of things, but you're never going to know what is inside of somebody's mind until it's actually too late. So that's one of the things that, is a lot different from now. So, this is something that you probably have seen. Let me see if I can play this in here. Hopefully I have audio. I don't have audio. Can you give me audio? Yeah. There we go.
Reviews identified troubling gaps in DoD's ability to detect, prevent, and respond to instances where someone working for us, a government employee, member of our military, or a contractor, decides to inflict harm on this institution and its people. I am directing the department to establish automated reviews of cleared personnel that will continuously pull information from law enforcement and other relevant databases.
Increasingly, threats, cyber, kinetic, all threats, they're inside the perimeter. What the Department of Defense should do is build security from within.
Well, no shit, Sherlock. So right now, 75% of the attack, the breach is actually the extradition of data happens within hours. However, holy shit, awesome. Thank you, thank you. So, however, over 54% of the attacks, now you crazy. Over 54% of the attacks are left undetected for months. That gap, year after year, is increasing. Now, this is the gap for the technical stuff. For the people, for the companies of the world that are selling, the intrusion detection systems, the firewalls and everything, we see that gap, and it's mostly because of the operational perspective of things. But if you compare that into the insider threat, you cannot even put numbers into it because you don't know when really inside of somebody's mind, something is actually happening. So that's the main thing, that there's a lot of traditional indicators that people look in technology that in this case actually do not apply. Again, I can bombard you with a whole bunch of data, but again, the insider threat may never be detected until it's actually too late. So how many of you in here have been asked to actually deal now with the insider threat, if you have an insider threat program and everything? Yep. Why do you think is that?
It's already happening.
One is already happening. What else?
Our employers are really pissed off the employees.
Yeah, that's another one. That's actually in one of the cases, the number one issue there. What else?
People being careless, not knowing that not realizing that they're, say, emailing the social security numbers and not knowing that it's insecure.
Yep. And then the main reason that you guys are involved in there is because they always think, oh, let me give this problem to the nerds. They will figure it out, right? No, so actually, that's an interesting fact. This is, for the most part, not a technical problem. This is a behavioral problem, and I'll go over that. So what is an insider? Like you mentioned, a current or a former employee that is probably pissed off, a contractor that, it has some other, motives, and I'll go into the motives in a bit. It can be a business partner, anybody that actually has access to somebody's data, right, or somebody's property. That's an insider. The motivations go from money, that I'm pissed off, idealism, political reasons, revenge, sabotage. Of course, if you're working for governments, that may be another reason. And the other thing is that the unintended insider, the dumb people out there, like actually you mentioned there, right? So it's hunting for the authorized evil, right? So the guys, in most cases, are already authorized. Of course, it's now a battle between what is actually good and what is evil. There is the known bad, right? So you say, okay, I can probably do somewhat of a scan, if you can call it that way, for a known bad. And there's also the assumed good, right? But which one is it, right? Whenever it comes to that, you cannot tell, right? The other one is, who am I, who hired me, right? Well, I can tell you who hired me. My name is Omar Santos. Like they said, I work for Cisco, and I investigate all the bad news for Cisco from the technical perspective. But again, one of the things that attracts me a lot is the science, if I can call it that way, of the human behavior and the motives of a lot of the attacks that are actually being extremely successful. And not so much of the attacks, but the things that are actually happening right now in the industry. And a lot of them, as you know right now, and I'm not going to drink and mention that name, but it's kind of unavoidable. Yeah. Because of those, that has a ripple effect on everybody. Anyways, I have to drink, like you said. Let's do a little bit of an insider trivia here, right? So, actually, how many of you are familiar with these geeks who drink? Specifically, that looks like me right there. But, awesome, one guy. Nobody else? So I was in Knoxville for a pen test summit about 2 weeks ago, and I saw this at a bar, and I was kind of like that, kind of drunk whenever I noticed. But then I found out that actually they have it here. They have it all over the place, in Austin, everywhere. Basically, it's trivia. People get, get drunk, and they go and and do different type of topics. So I'll do a little bit of trivia here, okay, starting from the obvious. Who's that? Chelsea. What did he, she, it do?
Started White Chicks.
It exposed war crimes by the U.S. Army in Iraq. What?
What else? There you go, WikiLeaks. So yeah, it's actually you were somewhere there. Excuse me. He's one of the guys that, of course, is in all the rampage about WikiLeaks. What about this guy? Making it harder. Not so quite. Yeah. Awesome. Yes. Yep. Actually, as a matter of fact, my team had to help those guys whenever that happened. But anyways, Robert Hansen, who's that guy? Oh, that's too easy. Yeah. Who's that chick? Wow, you're rolling. Did you work with her? So some additional examples. This just happened May 5th. Am I reading that correctly? Yeah. So basically, inside the Navy, there was a guy that was an administrator that apparently, he actually claims that he's a hacker. But I don't know if he was actually hackery or kung fu, but he actually stole, confidential data. And of course, now it's being prosecuted. And it's a 27-year-old. That just actually happened. This is an interesting case study. As a matter of fact, most of these case studies either came from CERT, from public records. I'm not disclosing anything that is not public, so another disclaimer there. There's a technology company, I'm not going to say the name, that had two business partners. Both of them actually have confidential data, and basically they had to share with technology company A that confidential data. In one of them, actually, it was what made the company B what company B is. So almost the crown jewels of the company. So there comes the awesome administrator from that company, and he goes like, "Oh my God, these are some cool partners that my company now has. Let me actually send my resume to both of them." And then he actually got offer letters from both of them, got hired, and he accepted to one. But before that, actually, he downloaded those confidential documents and took them along to technology company C. Whenever another guy from technology company C saw some odd information that they should not have gotten, then he reported out, and of course he got caught, but he got caught about 1.5 years later, right? So it was too late. There is a little hint out there, or a little problem, is that the I do not care problem as well, right? So now that we're talking about business partnership and everything, is that typically companies, one, we're too busy to care, and two, it's truly not really in our head our problem what happens to my business partner, right? So, it is what it is. But we have to recognize that we depend on their ability to be able to secure themselves, because they can also become either an insider or a threat, or even, DDoS can actually come from them and everything, especially whenever we talk about even cloud-based providers, right? So that's another thing, is that I do not care moment, or that I do not care sentiment has to change, right? And yes, in a lot of cases we cannot do much about it, and of course we have our hands tied, but at least you can recognize that that's actually a threat. So whenever you have to deal with them, whenever you have to actually, either have some contractual agreement, to be able to identify the risks that are there and mitigate those risks, right? Now, the other thing about insider threats is that, again, it's not a technical thing, but the whole BYOD stuff, even, again, my company, they sell stuff for BYOD, but it's a matter of trust, right? So if I take my phone, sorry, that's not my phone, it's somewhere. If I take my phone and I walk out to one of my labs, and we're probably creating a new product that is going to revolutionize the industry, and I take a picture, or I take pictures of the engineering documents, and I send it through my 4G network, it will not show network, you will not know what it is, because no one can help you, because you don't know somebody else. So I think 5 pictures. This chick goes to the bathroom, took 37. Is the same thing. Changing subjects. I love my wife. Now, this is actually another case study. I have no slides for that case study, but this is actually pretty particular. This guy is not a U.S. foreigner, and this didn't happen in the U.S. This happened overseas. But he was actually married to a lady from Pakistan, and he worked in the department where you actually put the terrorist list names. And he was really pissed at his wife, and she was visiting her family in Pakistan. He put her on the list, and for 3 years, she was not able to come back to the country, and he got away with it. So how do you deal with that? It's $100 over there, Yeah. So that's some crazy kung fu there. It's beyond Metasploit. Metasploit my wife, kind of a module. It didn't happen in the U.S. though. Yeah. So that's a good thing. Yep. Let me drink some more. So there's also the idea of the unintentional insider, and my apologies that you can probably not read this thing here, but the first thing that actually, let me increase this because I cannot read it either, is attention. The lack of attention of a person sometimes can contribute to, doing dumb things, right? Just being a knucklehead, right? The other one is fatigue. In some of the cases from CERT, they found out that fatigue was a contributor to a couple of their cases. I think they were from 2007, 2008 or so. And then several cases, of course, the phishing attacks is just dumb people still clicking on the emails, and they're being successful going that. But the other one is also stress and anxiety, right? And as a matter of fact, even the folks that may be an insider, maybe whatever you want to call it, can fluctuate that type of stress, that type of anxiety. Oh my God, your boss's boss told me that we have to print this report and we have to send it, or you have to give me this information, all that type of crap, right? That can contribute to the problem too. There's no firewall in hell that can help you on that, right? The other thing, there's some other interesting findings. The majority of the insiders plan their activities before it. Yeah, really? I didn't have to study that. But the second one is the majority of the insiders came to the attention, or the majority of the insiders, were somewhat detected as somebody being problematic or unusual behavior, like drinking during a presentation, or and the other ones is that others had information about insiders' intentions and plans, but they actually did not share that information with anybody because they were afraid that they were going to get caught. And again, the source is several studies from the Secret Service and CERT, wherever that goes. Now, this is another interesting thing. 76% of the insiders develop plan in advance to harm the organization. So these ones were not like somebody, I just got pissed today, I'm going to put something that I'm going to extradite information tomorrow, or I just got hired by this company, I'm going to download these documents so it will be my first promotion, or whatever the case might be, right? The other thing is that 40% of the cases involve overt behaviors in preparation of other incidents, and 15% of the cases there were actually technical actions to take place in order to carry the attacks. You see that number is pretty low, right? You will expect that technical stuff it will be there, like I don't know, creating some custom malware, to be able to extradite the information or something. No, that's the basic stuff is what is actually happening right here. 1/3 of wow, that's my PowerPoint skills sucks. Drink. It's 1/3 of the word. Mm-hmm. That is true. Awesome. 1/3 of CERT's insider IP threats, did have to do with foreign governments, and these studies were actually based on U.S.-based companies, so that's why it was there. So What is the recommendation? Yeah, you actually have to pay attention to your crown jewels, and of course, pay attention of what is the most critical intellectual property you have, and protect against erosions of access control to that. It's easier said than done, believe me. Even though in some cases your organization may actually have many, many, many crown jewels and many, many kings and kingdoms inside it. That is pretty, amazing to accomplish. So it's definitely easier said than done. But other thing is that half of the cases of other individuals had information about those insider plans, and those included co-workers, 32%, acquaintances, 20%, family members, friends, and in 36% of the cases there were multiple individuals involved into this problem, right? So, either multiple people pissed off, or multiple people making money, or multiple people actually be getting hired by, the company, even though they were working for another entity. Again, one of the things that I cannot stress enough is that insiders, in most cases, are not hackers, right? So yeah, in some other cases, they can actually have some cool kung fu that can pull up, some moves in there, but typically they're not really hackers. But they also often cause, the most either reputation damage or money damage, right? So that's another thing, is that their kung fu is strong in their side, right? Most of the tools or products that we have right now are designed for hackers. They're not designed for insider threats. They cannot scan your mind. There's some behavioral analysis you can actually do. There's some proactive stuff that you can also do. But whenever it comes to punish by an insider, your firewall or IPS is not gonna. You cannot write a Snort signature to pick up an insider if it's just gonna act right now and then just leave, right? If it's actually just gonna take a picture of your new device and then leave, right? In most cases, the insiders are not a technical issue by itself. A good threat program, and actually Patrick Reedy, he's the CISO of FBI, he actually did a really good presentation in Black Hat last year regarding the insider threat. And he actually has a good thing, is that a good insider threat program should focus on deterrence, not detection. And basically, he's suggesting that we should crowdsource security in a way that we should have security advocates out there. We typically do that, and actually I'll put my, Cisco hat now. We do that at Cisco with the technology, right? So every business unit, we have, with Heartbleed, after Heartbleed I lost the count of how many products we have, but we have so many business units out there, and the only way that we can actually disseminate the information, even know what is impacted or not, is by implementing automation and by implementing crowdsourcing of security. So if you take that same thing out of the technical and implement it to behavioral, right, then that hopefully will spread, right? Positive social engineering is another thing. So create an environment to persuade a positive environment. It's not like holding hands and singing Kumbaya, and that's never gonna fly, right? But be able to detect if there's actually problematic areas of your company, right? And work with management. If there's problematic areas with their company that people are really pissed off, then be able to detect that. In most cases, is a lot easier said than done. Now, going back into the very basic technical stuff that you can probably do too, they're very small. In some cases, even the free stuff like DNS and things like NetFlow, they can be your friend, right? So for example, why in the hell at 3 o'clock in the morning I'm talking to an embargo country if my company's in the US? What's that? Yeah, well, so one way is that's when they're awake, of course. And then, why we're not blocking that from the beginning, right? Why are we still talking to all this in here? You cannot read it, but, I'm not going to go and pick any country. And the other thing is that the evolution of things that are, the typical, hey, my botnet is actually talking to an IRC server now is encrypted talking to Twitter. And, it's my marketing folks are doing awesome at 3 o'clock in the morning. So those are the type of things that you can actually do. You can do a lot of, I'm not going to go into the technical stuff. This is actually probably my only talk that is not technical. It's just like, wow, that's pretty bad. Drink. So you can do other free stuff like, DNS RPC, for example, right? And I wrote a blog regarding some of those techniques, in there. The other thing is that people try to, everybody wants to collect everything. Oh my God, we have to collect every single thing from DNS, from NetFlow, IDS logs, syslog, everything, right? But nobody either has the talent, the time, or the tools necessary to be able to do that, right? So now we're thinking about, oh wow, this is big data crisis, right? How can I actually hire the correct people, data scientists, mathematicians, to be able to solve this problem? Well, I have some really bad news for you. For the technical stuff, it works, yeah, if you can, it works. For the insider, are you gonna apply big data? I mean, yeah, you can probably see how many times, this guy published today that he's in Carolina Con in Twitter, but is that? But, that's the type of things that is pretty intense. So what you can do is actually outsource, right? Anyways, in all seriousness, there's some mitigations and best practice, and put the word mitigations in there. One is a really good resource. This is actually, probably one of the best resources there is CMU with CERT. They actually have a few things out there. But one, again, this is like I'm gonna start from the fluff and go over some of the things. Is incorporate a threat awareness program, easier said than done. But beginning with the hiring process, monitor and respond to these, disruptive things that are happening in the organization. And this is actually not something that, hey, let's get the nerds to actually figure it out, right? So if you are involved now with this insider threat, this is beyond the nerd thing, right? So you have to look into your processes and to also not only the hiring, but also whenever you fire people, how effective is the organization to cut access. In some cases, I have seen organizations where, if you get hired even by, you don't get fired, but you get hired by the contractor, they literally, walk you out and you cannot even touch your computer anymore. But is it too late? You never know, right? So those type of behaviors, you have to keep track. And then, of course, anticipate and manage those. Know, of course, your assets that you want to protect, implement, of course, this is typical, the strict passwords and account management. Separation of duties, right? I used to work for the government, not for the NSA, but I used to work for the government, for DOD, and that's actually something that they did really good that a lot of corporations don't do that great, and some corporations actually do it some fantastic that even the government, doesn't do that well, but I see it across as very inconsistent, right? That separation of duties, and it's really, really, really hard, right? Whenever, the first motto is that, and we even sell this stuff, collaboration, 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 cross-pollination, all that. And then you need access to information, especially if you want to be competitive, right? It is really hard to do, but you have to think about that. And then, of course, the security agreements on cloud providers and monitoring capabilities and things like that. The other one is institute stringent access control, of course. Change of controls, if at 3 o'clock in the morning something is actually changing in your firewall by an administrator, even though if it's an administrator and he doesn't have a change of control or a ticket to do that, at least that's actually one of the few technical things you can actually probably do a red flag, right? So if you institute a way that only a change can be done if there's a ticket, which is the best practice, and not somebody pissed off at 3 o'clock in the morning before he gets hired at another company, that will be a value add. Then, of course, I'm going to go into a lot of them that are mostly for your reference, but monitor, remote access, especially, things that are fishy. And it's really hard. Actually, I know friends of mine that actually, connects to some VPN from another, place at Cisco just so they can watch their cricket game, right? So it's hard to see what is malicious or not, but you have to be vigilant in, some of the behaviors you actually see out there, especially whenever you got to ramp up, and I'm not saying this, do a stalking to your people, but, whenever you see a ramp up of, I don't know, social media, friends or something, or people following a specific person because it's putting some, ambulance chasing crap out there. That may be actually something they may want to pay attention to. Again, these are very best practices. What I want to actually do right now is learn from you. So I purposely actually did this to somewhat of a 40-minute presentation, but I want to learn what is, for those of you that raise your hand that you're dealing with insider threat, or for those of you that are not dealing right now, but are more intrigued into the technical abilities that we actually can have as an industry to combat the insider threat, what is there to do?
You gotta have some sort of tools to help detect possible data leaks so that it could be, so that appropriate disciplinary actions can be taken.
Many they don't log analysis, intelligence that you can gather from different systems, payroll, or anything, with things that are related to the human behavior, right? So like HR type perspective. If you probably know, and this is when it comes down to privacy too, right? But whenever you can probably have some type of indicators, not of compromise, but indicators of problematic areas, like, some companies have PIP, the performance improvement plans, right? So as soon as that actually is happening, that some guy is going to be pissed off, right? And especially if you put your network administrator on PIP, you're probably going to get pissed off, some kung fu out there. Now, clear that a lot of these, and I didn't share that, but when I was doing some of these studies and talking to some of the guys from the CERT, they actually mentioned that a lot of these really bad attacks they were not carried out by technical people or administrators, right? So of course, there were several by network administrators, especially the one from the Navy that just happened in May. But a lot of these are not even technical folks, right? And they're really, 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 really good also into the social engineering. In fact, again, remember the known bad and the assumed good. That's probably one of the best analogies in here. Probably Superman or Wonder Woman may not be as you think that Superman or Wonder Woman is. Yes?
All right, how about this one? How about we stop training our customers and employees to do stupid things, like by sending out, I don't know, legitimate emails with click here to update your account preferences. Legitimate emails with embedded links that encourage them to click on emails, make it so that some guy's just going to take that email, make their own version, send it out to the same address list, and just change that link.
Yep. Actually, that's a really, really good point. His suggestion was why if we actually stop training and then we do very tactical sending emails with specific links that we can probably detect some behavior there. So that's a good thing. Yes, sir.
I work for a government entity, and we set up IPS rules that monitor for bank account numbers, resumes, things like that that cross our internal nets. And, so we can catch people that are applying for other jobs or whatnot. And we don't have that type of information, but we at least know what people are looking and can guard with network admin releases. And we also run database behavioral software
even for encrypted communication too?
Yeah, it goes against SQL servers or whatever, against the database themselves. But you can also do it on WANs or whatever, even against NetFlow. We use QRadar for something.
Yes.
What about say, for this kind of threat, the sysadmin who accidentally got his laptop owned by an MBR rootkit? Isn't that an insider threat we're going to have to deal with?
Yeah, that brings a insider threat. It depends. It's like the word hacker. How you define what is a hacker. Yeah, the insider threat may be somebody that's actually compromised and he's used as a stepping stone. That is the unintended, insider threat. For that, of course, you can apply technology because it's actually somebody's owning the machine. Actually, you bring an excellent point. The evolution of things that we're seeing as far as exploitation out there. So again, I'm going to actually put my technical hat now, and this may be relevant for you guys. The kung fu that I'm seeing out there, in some cases, is pretty weak. It's the same thing over and over and over. And the other is the kung fu is pretty strong out there too, right? And whenever I say that is that initially, so what I do for Cisco is that I get all the bad news, all the researchers, all the customers are getting, attacked and everything. They contact my team, PCERT. And then we investigate all, anything. It can be, an attack against an iOS box, an attack against a firewall, an attack against a host, a vulnerability on an IP phone. It may be a vulnerability against, a cloud service that we have, anything, right? So it's pretty big, I guess, diverse of things that we're seeing. And it's not the same, in most cases, but if you look at the historical things of it, and what it keeps me up at night is that initially somebody will send an email or will call us to the PCER alias saying, hey, I have this buffer overflow vulnerability in your router. Okay, cool. Then I say, thank you, and they say, okay, can you give me credit in your advisory because, I'm building my penetration testing company and I want to put in my resume. Sure, I'll give you a credit in the advisory. Thank you for finding this and responsible disclosure. We get it fixed. We publish advisory. The guy's happy. Then it moved into, hey, Cisco, you have a buffer overflow in your router or anything, and I want some money, right? So can you give me some money? I'm like, no, we cannot give you some money at that time. We have so much of a diverse system that if it was actually like a web server, like YouTube or something, I can give you money because I can control that. But in some cases, it's OEM products, things that are not as easy, that if I can have half of the internet actually upgrading one day. So it's pretty diverse, right? So that, if it comes to the fact that we have to protect customers, we do whatever it takes, right? So that's our mission. We sometimes are seen as not even being part of Cisco because we line stop products that are making a lot of money, and we stop it from actually going out. But anyways, then some other folks that say, hey, can you give me some equipment so I can play? I cannot buy your $12 million router, but I want to have access to a CRS-1. Okay, sure, I have 3. So get access to that and show me your kung fu, and we fix it and we publish it up. Then we saw a transition of brokers, right? So of course, brokers that want to also make money for vulnerability, they will create your signature, and then instead of me getting an email from a researcher, I get an email from a broker and says, hey, I have this guy that actually found a vulnerability in your product. You have 6 months, and give them credit. And for them, they actually pay them, but they make the signature before us, and that's hunky-dory. That's awesome. I fix it. I don't care about this. Again, from my perspective, what I do at Cisco is protect the customer and protect Cisco. So as long as I have a fix, they can get paid or anything. But then whatever I'm seeing now is outside of the brokers, and this is across the company. I sit on a board of a third-party nonprofit organization that Microsoft is there, Amazon is there, a lot of people, Intel, Oracle are there. And as a matter of fact, during RSA conference, we were in the room, and we're probably the owners, the proud owners of more than 75% of the CVEs out there, right? We're in this room. And I was talking to them and saying, what are the things that you're seeing? Yeah, the brokers are here and there. But basically, the stuff is the things that we don't know about, right? And the thing is that, of course, if you, instead of selling drugs, you sell exploits, right? So you make more money than selling drugs. And then we found out about it until some customer actually calls us or whatever the case might be, right? So that's what is keeping us up collectively in the world. And that type of advanced things that are using very, very basic things with really, really, really hard kung fu, right? Or strong kung fu. So what I'm trying to go is that that type of, I guess, evolution is now being complemented, if you can call, with the behavioral of somebody, right? Somebody that is pissed off, and the bad actors already can tell if you're looking for a job. And as a matter of fact, they actually know already if you're looking for a job. And we did a study last year that was in the security report, is that I think it was from January to March, and then from September to November, that's whenever most of the people are putting stuff in, like, all the monsters.com and LinkedIn updating their thing. And they already know that. And their target you like is no way in hell. If I post, even if you don't want to be an insider, but if you really, really, really want to get paid $500,000 a year, if I post the dream job right now, and I say, I'm looking for some guy that work at Cisco as a peace incident manager, starting salary is going to be $500,000 a year, and can work from home and everything. Oh my God, that sounds like a dream job, right? And everybody's like a chief of something, so chief architect of hackery. So you apply for the job, and the first thing that they're going to ask is, hey, what do you do for living? And you tell what you do for living. Hey, and they put some scenarios for you. Hey, if you were into this thing, they can get some stuff from you like it's no way in hell, right? And then, of course, you're not going to get hired, but you got a lot of information from there. So even that unintended insider threat, with the kung fu that we're seeing in as far as exploitation and everything, it can be combined. And you already know I don't have to send somebody to do a pen testing of your environment. I already interviewed you. You probably already gave me some information that then I can custom my malware to attack your company. And there's nothing you didn't know about. This is like day minus 25, right? So not that day zero. So that's the type of things that we're actually seeing right now. They don't want to frustrate you? Yes, sir.
There's actually some companies who are offering money to employees to resign to get rid of non-productive or disgruntled employees before they become a threat. Happy employees won't take it, they're not getting a job. Other people, $10 grand to get out of here, great. And then they're less likely to, reap pensions on their way out.
That is absolutely right. And so for those of you that didn't hear, is that there's employers that actually give money for the disgruntled employees that is already, you do a risk analysis as a threat already, keep him happy like that. Yes, sir.
So we're talking about insider threats, and we're calling them threats, but it's from my experience with employee investigations, that's not what they are. I mean, generally, an employee who's scorned, that is exiting with data, is mentally unstable, they're hurt that they're leaving their job. I mean, it's usually this unfortunate sob story, which, we're told in doing investigations, so we don't really give a crap about. But I think we need to play this less with technology and a lot more with psychology, and have better offboarding. I mean, because the people that you're mentioning here are just the people who, the insider threat that takes data when they leave your company and gives it to a competition or gives it to someone else. It completely discounts every other employee who leaves your company and steals the stapler and paper and everything else. Every data or file they've ever accessed gets put on a USB on their way out the door. I mean, after deploying DLP, you catch a lot of people who are they're not scorned, they're not upset, but they worked hundreds of hours on that Excel sheet and they have personal attachment to it and they don't want to leave it behind. So I think we need to, actually move away from technology with this, and it probably shouldn't be in the geek realm. I mean, detection maybe, but response, it's generally mental instability that I'm seeing that causes,
Yep.
this kind of insider.
Yeah,
It's evident in the major insiders you've listed. Most of the major insiders you have pictures of are obviously mentally unstable.
Correct. At least they look like it. Yeah. Not only they are, but they also look like. That's a really good analogy. Of course, there's also the very, again, I go back because I cannot reread it, the known bad, the unstable folks, and probably the executives, and that's a strong word, but, that are leading things that.
I met a salesperson who didn't leave with their contact.
Ouch, salespeople. Yeah. Well, but sorry? World-class pay? Yeah.
In fact, speaking of salespeople, where I worked at BTI, another problem we had an application that had been developed specifically for the salespeople to be able to look and view their customers' billing services, and they could access it externally. And this application was something one database guy put together for them because someone had told him he had to do this and he did it. He was the one person in the entire company who added users to that system. But he wasn't in the loop for employee separation.
Yep.
So salespeople would leave, but he was never told. So he never knew there was from that system. And then I found out that apparently some salespeople had left and they found they could select the system. So they're going in there and they're going to our competitors. They're looking at the customers, looking at what they're getting and what they're being charged for, and then offering them the same service at a lower price. And our salespeople were telling us this is a problem, but it took a while before I could finally track what the issue was. And they had been telling other people, not in IT about it. And they had been saying, oh, the system, we're just talking to each other. And it wasn't until someone finally told me, I said, wait, what application are they asking? So you really, I mean, it sounds like you really have to, audit your stuff. And it helps to sometimes, unfortunately, make friends with salespeople.
They're walking credit cards. And I know a couple of salespeople that are here, but I use them, I abuse them. I'm just kidding. All right, guys. Thanks again. I think I'm getting the hook. So have a nice one. Drink.